Are you living your life in a sense of urgency? The actions that you do right now, do they have significant importance to you? Do they benefit you in the present moment? And will they benefit you in the future? If the answers to both of those questions is yes, then number one, that's great, because you're on a good path. But more often than not, it's not always going to be that. And it's the same for me. And it's the two questions that I try and think about as much as possible every single day, because it's two questions that can greatly impact the way my life is heading. And I just want you to focus on those two and think about them whenever you are kind of in your day. And I want you to have those two questions just subconsciously in your mind. So whenever you're doing a specific task, whenever you're walking, whenever you're just chilling, whenever you're talking to someone, those questions just pop up into your head. And then you can shift whatever habits you're doing to benefit you properly. Because to think about it this way, like, especially when, this is something I think about a lot, being in my early 20s, I feel like, number one, that, there is definitely a big sense of ambition and a drive there. But number two, like, there's also a very massive sense of being lost in your 20s. And you might feel the same. You might be doing your daily routine, weekly routine, weeks go by, months go by, and you might just be feeling, but what am I really doing? And those are actually very good questions to ask. It's asking those questions to yourself identifies what you really want in life, but what you are also lacking. If you ask those questions and you're completely honest to yourself, then that's when the opportunity to change comes into play. And when you have that opportunity, then you can direct your life into a much better direction that you want to take it in. Because if you don't ask these kind of questions, and if you're not honest with yourself, then you're kind of lying to yourself. You're going with the flow, and then months, months, years go by, and soon you'll be like, I've just wasted this time. Asking yourself, is what I'm doing right now beneficial to me right here, right now? And is it beneficial for me, for my future self? Like, for example, I remember, like, I stopped playing a lot of video games over the last year, and it was just because I realized that I would play a lot. I'd spend like hours and hours per day just playing, really. And I knew that deep down, I knew that it wasn't a great habit to have. Sure, you can play video. I'm not saying don't play video games, but I'm just saying I was kind of lost in the sense of playing too much and not really using my time effectively. And once I started thinking about these questions, I realized, like, what am I actually doing? Like, what's the added value that I really get? It's not much. So just ask yourself those questions. And because end of the day, right, every single morning the sun is going to be up, it's going to be shining, and then every time you go to bed, the moon will be there, it will be night. And it will always be like that. It will, no matter what age you are, whether you are 15 years old, whether you are 20 years old, 25, 30, 50, 80, it will always be like that. So do you want to go every single day mindlessly, where you just do not know, you just go with the flow, you don't have a specific direction? Or do you want to just start, picking yourself up bit by bit, building something that you want to build, building something that, by the end of it, you'll be like, wow, I've come this far, and it's because of my hard work that I've put in. Because one of the greatest fears for me personally is the feeling of regret. It's to be, go to a specific age and just think to myself, but what if I did this? Or how will my life change if I had taken this route instead of the route I've taken? Or what if I just put a tiny bit more effort into this? What if I just followed my dream? What if I just spent a couple of hours a day working on a specific skill that I really enjoy doing, a hobby that I love to do, rather than just wasting it elsewhere that I really didn't have in, like watching Netflix or TV and playing games, and just, whereas I could have channeled it into a specific hobby or passion of mine. That is the scariest kind of regret that I think personally that I can have. And it's that small mindset shift that you just have to ask yourself, am I doing what I want to be doing now? Is what I'm doing now the right thing? Is what I'm doing now benefiting me? There's one thing that I think Jay-Z gave at, I saw a video Jay-Z giving this at a speech at some, I think it's like a college graduation, and he got the quote from someone else, but basically I'm paraphrasing here. There was an old man, and you know, he was on his deathbed, and one night there was a ghost of him, different versions of him, all as ghosts. And it was the night before he died, and they were all surrounding him, and they were, you know, very successful versions of him. And the man looked kind of sad. He was unsure. You know, he was disappointed. He just didn't feel right. And all of them were very successful in their own way. And all the ghosts asked the man, this is what you could have had. If you would just put a little bit more work into yourself and just tried, this is what you could have had. And that is definitely not something that we should go through. We should never go through that kind of feeling of regret. And you won't feel that. At this stage in our lives, we're not going to be thinking about that. We're just going to be thinking about what's easiest at this moment in time. And that is definitely the killer. Because if you think like that, it's easy for you to just neglect these tasks. And it's so much easier for the regret to creep in the future. You have to do the difficult thing now, here and now. This is where, and it's not necessarily just even being difficult, it's just making sure that you are aware of what you want exactly and allocating your time accordingly.